Welcome back, Astro listeners, to Star Lady Soul Reader Network. This is Media Monk, and as usual on this new moon, I'm joined by our shining star of the zodiac. It's Star Lady. Hi, Star Lady.
Hello, Media Monk.
We all remember Star Lady is indeed Kim Marie, the managing director for our network. EAN continues to provide the finest course to certified new evolutionary astrologers, and we attract as many or more people just looking for that next level of soul growth in their life. You can always call us at any time, 1-605-348-5111 for more information about the course, anything on the website, or to perhaps ask any questions of Media Monk. So consider doing that. In the meantime, I'll turn it over to Star Lady for today's new moon in Pisces.
Thank you, Media Monk. Hello, everyone. Our new moon is going to be March 2nd of 2022, with that new moon at 12 degrees Pisces, just shy of a conjunction with Jupiter, hanging out at 14 degrees Pisces. Basically, this first week of March is going to be very strongly highlighted with several inner planet conjunctions to the outer planets. And I think it's hard to even reference them without looking at what is taking place in Europe right now. And our hearts, thoughts, prayers, actions, everything, all of the above goes out for the right of people to have the freedom to govern themselves. I'm going to speak just briefly about these conjunctions, and I'll reference each of them to what is going on in Ukraine. As we said, the new moon of Pisces is going to be March 2nd at 12 degrees Pisces, and it reminds me of the mantras that I created decades ago. The mantra for Pisces: I am in wholeness with my reality. I am in wholeness, WHOLENESS, with my reality. And reality, the Virgo side of the polarity, Pisces, is pretty shocking right now for people who are living and watching their city being bombed. I don't know, for me personally, yes, I know we've had so much conflict in so many areas of the world. For some reason, this one is just hitting, and it's like, how can we in the modern world think that bombing homes and businesses and cities can be a path in today's world? I'm heartened by the unity that the West is showing. I'm heartened by the resistance to the Ukrainians. I did not know that Ukraine was 40 million people. Those are a lot of citizens in that country. And so I don't know if I could make any forecast as to what will happen, but I am heartened, that's my word for the day, for the podcast, by the fact that there are so many coming together in this resistance that basically is one human person, Vladimir Putin, who thinks that he has the power to do whatever he wants to do. I had mentioned on the last broadcast that astrologers are doubting what time he was born. It's unknown. There's several times that are circulating out there. But as I've thought on it and looked at his chart again, if he was born early in the morning, October 7th, 1952, in St. Petersburg, Russia, if he was born early in the morning, he could put his moon at late Taurus, and it would attest to his being in office for 2 decades, his longevity. It would also then put his moon in late Taurus, if it is, conjunct the moon for Russia in late Taurus and be right on the transiting north node, which is currently taking place in late Taurus. We had a conjunction with that going on the full moon of Leo 2 weeks ago, and it's still within orb of everything right now on this new moon in Pisces. And so it, attests itself to that nodal axis in Taurus Scorpio that has all of the South Node in Scorpio distortions, power over, power under. The distortions of North Node in Taurus, wanting to grab on to resources, land. Taurus rules land, literally. And so, here we are trying to take over the land of other beings. And so we still have the nodal axis, then again, on Russia's moon in Taurus, and it is getting closer and closer to squaring the natal nodal axis in Vladimir Putin's chart. That's going to take place within a month or so. And so to me, we can really be looking at this new moon and energizing that peace for the planet, energizing the peace for all citizens in all places. It can be shaking us up even stronger wherever we live. By the way, the transiting nodes will not be squaring Vladimir Putin's natal North Node Aquarius, South Node Leo until early July. And so the question is, will the conflict go on that long? I go back and forth, sometimes thinking it's going to be fairly short. I was kind of under the impression that Russia just might come in and take over, but I've been pleasantly surprised at the resistance. And so maybe this new moon in Pisces can help all of us understand that greater, unity and diversity and that desire to have that peace for all of us. Maybe it will be that intention amongst those who, again, want that freedom to govern themselves, to be the inspiration, Pisces, in moving forward, to be the belief, to be the divine. Jupiter's conjunct this new moon, and Jupiter likes to expand whatever it touches. And so this new moon in Pisces is going to be almost an initiation of the Jupiter conjunction to Neptune that's going to take place in the middle of April 12th at 24 degrees Pisces. The cynic in me has been a little leery of thinking that Jupiter conscious beliefs, Neptune unconscious beliefs conjuncting in Neptune's sign would bring in a new era of peace. It could also bring in all of the checking out, all the addictions and distortions. But perhaps this new moon is initiating a different energy for this coming Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. Stay tuned, we'll see. But right before this new moon at 12 Pisces on March 2nd, we also have Mercury direct, making a conjunction to Saturn at 19 degrees Aquarius. Remember, Mercury went retrograde on us the end of January at about 10.5 Aquarius. It was within orb of feeling like a conjunction to Saturn, but it never caught up to Saturn. It then retrograded back to turn direct with Pluto in the later degrees of Capricorn. Well, here's Mercury back in Aquarius again and having that conjunction with Saturn on March 2nd, 19 degrees Aquarius. This happens to be a very tight conjunction on the natal north node of Russia's chart. And so it is, I think, kind of a wake-up call for citizens of Russia as they see all the sanctions coming about, as they see this unified response from all kinds of nations and around the world to, put on these sanctions that cut, Russia's central bank out of their international banking system that's nicknamed SWIFT. I think this can be that jarring Aquarian shock that Mercury and Saturn can bring. Now, we're recording this on Monday, February 28th. This Mercury-Saturn conjunction is 2 days away, and 24 hours is a lifetime in the beginning of a war. Will we see Russia coming back super strong? Or did it take itself by surprise that it was as unprepared as it is? That instead of the Ukrainians willingly going, they're resisting and standing up for themselves. Stay tuned. We're 2 days away from the time of this recording to this Mercury-Saturn conjunction, so there might be more shock and trauma to come with this. What will be interesting is on the heels of this, we're going to have Venus and Mars go into Aquarius. Before they do, though, the day after this new moon, on March 3rd, Mars will conjunct Pluto at 28 degrees Capricorn, and Venus will conjunct Pluto at 28 degrees Capricorn. And so we have all the intensity of what's going on here. We have all the seriousness. Over the weekend before we recorded this call, we had the moon in Capricorn, bringing its own conjunctions to Venus and Mars and Pluto. Leroy and I were blessed to go to Arizona last week. We had some dear friends of ours get married on February 22nd, 2/22/22, and Leroy and I officiated the wedding. So we had a very nice time. However, we had to get up at an ungodly hour in the middle of the night to make our 6 a.m. flight home. And we're boarding the plane, and I'm looking at that Moon-Venus conjunction out there. It was beautiful. I've said this before. Medium Monk and Star Lady are not really early birds. It's one of our blessings of being self-employed. But it was wonderful to see that. And yet at the same time, I was just tapping into the seriousness of that moon in Capricorn and Venus and Mars. And, to the ancients, when we couldn't see the outer planets, Venus could signify war many times, as much as Mars. They were the visual planets that we could see. And so here they are with the powerhouse of Pluto, making their conjunctions, bringing a deep, deep seriousness to the planet. It's overriding everything else that may be going on right now for a lot of people, at least for the people in Europe. I mean, I was heartened. If I read it right, it was like 100,000 people in Germany came out protesting against Russia invading Ukraine over the weekend. This Venus, Mars, Pluto, again, it's like the seriousness of the power over power under games. And maybe shocking to a lot of the younger generations. Oh gosh, there are people, men, usually white, not always, but many times, that still act this way in the world. Those of us who are older, who, can remember living through historical events realize that this is not all that rare. But it feels like it, I think, to these younger generations. And so that seriousness of Capricorn, Pluto, as we've said, this 2022 is the last full year of Pluto in Capricorn. And it's almost the culmination of autocrats in the world with various countries, reaching out to grab as much as they can while they still can, if they still can. Again, time will tell how all this unfolds. But we have that, put ourselves back on Earth with Capricorn realities going on. A couple of days after the Venus-Mars-Pluto conjunctions, the Sun makes its actual conjunction to Jupiter at about 15 degrees Pisces. This would take place on March 5th. And so as we look into this first weekend of March, Sun conjunct Jupiter, will we see expansions of, Putin thinking that, he's the Holy One and can do whatever he wants without any consequences? Stay tuned. What will also happen this first weekend, though, is that Mars goes into Aquarius March 6th through April 14th. Mars in Aquarius, March 6th through April 14th. Venus in Aquarius, March 6th through April 5th. March 6th through April 5th. Venus conjuncts Mars, March 6th at 0 Aquarius 02 minutes. How many of you remember the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that took place on the winter solstice of 2020? Jupiter conjuncted Saturn once at 0 Aquarius 29 minutes. So here's the Venus-Mars conjunction on that great degree that is governing our social systems over the next 20 years, Jupiter-Saturn. But again, their conjunction, 0 Aquarius 02 minutes. I just feel that this is, almost an explosion that's going to come out. Are there going to be mistakes made and we accidentally set off a nuclear weapon? I say mistakes made to, signify what could be maybe the most practical way to do it. Not the most practical, that was the wrong word. To signify the most unlikely way it may happen, but then again, the most likely way it may happen. But we also could look at this Venus-Mars conjunction as just jump-starting the rebellion all over the world of people saying, no more war. This is ridiculous. We stand up and resist. Stay tuned. There may be a lot of marching in the streets this coming weekend, and Sunday, March 6th, with these conjunctions would be the day to do it. Let's see what spontaneously arises from all of this as it comes through. Mercury making this conjunction at 19 Aquarius on the new moon. Mercury on Sunday, March 6th, also makes a square to the nodal axis at North Node Taurus, South Node Scorpio. And what kind of messaging will we see going on here as Mercury squares the nodes? Who's lying? Who's speaking the truth? Who's accusing one or another of, fudging things or, stirring the pot, creating upsets around, the world as we see going on. Saturn won't square the nodes until early April. It'll be April 9th, just days before the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. We'll speak to that in a future podcast. Just know that Saturn's in orb of squaring the nodal axis right now. Saturn square the nodes in evolutionary astrology can set up skip steps with maturation, can set up skip steps with responsibility, can, again, stir the pot over who's the leader and who's not. Everyone is surprised and shocked right now at how fast the European Union has come together in support of Ukraine, not only with resources, but even weapons, and especially Germany. We may see leadership by groups of people, not just necessarily an autocrat trying to have his way like the spoiled little boy in the schoolyard. It kind of quiets down. The Sun will conjunct Neptune on March 13th at about 23 degrees Pisces. As I had spoken in an earlier podcast, transiting Neptune is on Russia's south node at 24 degrees Pisces. And it raises the question, will the citizens of Russia recognize they've been, fooled by Putin? Will they, as, their own resources are crunched, as their own chaos happens in their country, perhaps have some empathy come through for what's happening to the citizens of Ukraine? Stay tuned. We will find out. On a personal basis, this new moon of Pisces is a time period for all of us to set our spiritual intents for the year, to have deep spiritual reflections on where we are in our world and how we are walking on the planet with our own inner peace. Personally, each of us may want to pay attention to the light bulbs that go off for us with the Mercury-Saturn conjunction that is also on this new moon in a few days. Mercury will go into Pisces March 9th through March 27th. And so Mercury will add to the Sun, Jupiter, Neptune transits through Pisces. Before that, though, again, Mercury can be bringing all kinds of light bulbs for us. It can also be bringing a little bit of shock, drama. Pray for those who are running for their lives. And then personally, the Venus-Mars-Pluto conjunctions. What is important in your world? How much material goods do you need? What can you shed? There are those who say we in the United States can get by with a lot less stuff. A lot less stuff. And that's what Venus and Mars and Pluto for us can be doing. What's of most value and importance in our material world? How do we make peace with our own finances and budgets and work? And Venus-Mars. What is of the most value and importance in our personal relationships? How can we find the ability to love those that are closest to us? How can we all step up to being more responsible with ourselves, with our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with our resources? And how can we step up and be more responsible, self-responsible in our intimate relationships, in our familial relationships. You know, there's nothing like trauma or crises to really kind of cut to the chase of anything, to really wake us up to what is most important. So one more time, here are these inner planets making conjunctions to outer planets in the last 3 signs of the zodiac: Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. You know, the last quadrant of the zodiac, while it has very personal meanings, is also the quadrant that says, how large can you make your circle? How broad can you open your arms? Can you visualize yourself holding the globe of planet Earth in your arms and loving it and loving all who are on it? We all get to do this personally, and we're all getting various wake-up calls to do it collectively. Media Monk, comments?
Just 2 words come to mind while I'm listening to you finish up today's New Moon podcast is the unpredictability of that Saturn in Aquarius, and then the contrasting values, you know, with Venus-Mars conjunctions. You know, you have that on full display between 2 Slavian neighbors, you know, Russians and Ukrainians. They got more in common than probably any 2 particular countries ever have, and shared more common upsets in Greece in their history. And here they are at war. So it is an unpredictable thing, but the contrasts of a oppressive neighbor on basically another neighbor that they have tremendous history with is really starting to show up for me.
Yes, and again, as I had mentioned last podcast, the Ruska, Ruska book by Edward Rutherford. I love his books. I haven't read them all, but I've read several of them. And, you know, I read that book twice, and it really shows us that long history of that entire continent between, you know, freedom and serfdom, freedom and slavery. And so, here's these, like you said, 2 countries with similar backgrounds, similar history, but totally opposite governing ideas.
Yeah.
Pray for
Hopefully,
peace.
Pray for peace and take the new moon of Pisces. Hopefully, will ameliorate any kind of unpredictability in war. So, until next time, continue to move with joy and a lot of passion on this somewhat unpredictable journey to the core of our souls. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.